Welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be hosting a Bee City Spotlight webinar that will feature initiatives in Brandon, which is Manitoba's first Bee City. So we'll give it just 30 seconds or so for people to stream in before we get started. A note to anyone who would like to listen in French, we do have interpretation available. To access the French audio, please click on the interpretation icon at the bottom of the screen. It looks a little bit like a globe, and you can select French from there. And we would like to acknowledge and thank the Government of Canada for supporting English to French interpretation of this webinar. I'll just give it like 10, 20 seconds. I think things have mostly stabilized with the attendees. Okay, great. I think we are ready to go. Again, hello to everybody that has just joined. Today we're hosting a Bee City Spotlight webinar to feature pollinator initiatives in Brandon, as I mentioned, Manitoba's first Bee City. And the aim of these Bee City Spotlight webinars is to highlight the actions being taken in communities across Canada to protect pollinators. So I think everybody was here for this, but one final reminder, French interpretation is available. So if you need to access that, please click on the interpretation icon at the bottom of the screen and select French from there. And again, we would like to acknowledge and thank the Government of Canada for supporting interpretation of this webinar. Before we dive in, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the land that Pollinator Partnership Canada resides on. We acknowledge that the land we're meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I know we are participating today from all across Canada, so we invite you to reflect on the land that you are on. Today, we're delighted to have Sherry Punak-Murphy, Chair of Bee City Brandon, to speak to us about the team's efforts to protect and promote pollinators in Brandon, from the revitalization of Eleanor Kidd Park into a thriving prairie pollinator habitat, to the naming of Brandon's official bee through a public vote. Sherry is the chairperson of Bee City Brandon and a range biologist who spent more than 30 years working in Manitoba's mixed grass prairie. She's passionate about all insects, yes, even the misunderstood ones, and enjoys helping people discover the vital roles native pollinators and plants play in healthy ecosystems. An avid iNaturalist user, Sherry loves learning alongside the community and sharing practical, down-to-earth ways people can support biodiversity right in their own yards and neighborhoods. I expect we'll have a little bit of time at the end for some questions. So if you do have questions, please type them into the Q&A box that you should be able to find at the bottom of your screen. And with all of that said, I will turn it over to Sherry.
Thank you. I'm just going to here. Does that show up all right, Jordan?
So I'm seeing the slides on the side.
Okay.
Perfect. Looks
How
great.
about now? Excellent. So good morning, good afternoon. It all depends on where you are right now, I guess. I'm Sherry Punak-Murphy. As Jordan said, I'm the chairperson of Bee City Brandon. Before I begin, I'd like to say that Bee City Brandon respects the treaties that were made on the lands here in Brandon, Manitoba, and acknowledges that we are located on Treaty 2 lands. These lands are where we live. The lands where we live are the traditional homelands of the Dakota, Anishinaabe, Cree, Dene people. Together, we acknowledge and respect the history, the land, and the people of this area. So today I'm going to discuss, it seems like a lot, but it's not really. But I want to talk about where we are, for those who don't know where Brandon, Manitoba is, our mandate, our community, what we do for awareness, such as presentations, social media, and the fun stuff. I have to throw in something about iNaturalist, and then we'll talk about our habitat creation, what our plans for the future are, and then hopefully at the end we have time for some questions. So here we are in the Prairie provinces. We are located here with this little bee right here in southwestern Manitoba. And currently there are now two bee cities in Manitoba. The other one's here in Warden. There aren't any in the Prairie province, part of Saskatchewan in the prairies, but there's seven of them here in Alberta, with one up here in, I can't even see, the Hudson's Plains. No, that's not the Hudson's Plain, the Boreal Plain. So we're hoping that someday we'll be able to be stretched across the Prairie provinces. So as Jordan said, we are Manitoba's first bee city, and we were Canada's 15th. And now there are 93 in Canada. So it's quite exciting that people have decided that pollinators are an important thing, and it's kind of spreading across the country. When we went to our city council to ask if we could apply to become a bee city, they were unanimously saying that we should do it. So we have the support of our city and the citizens that live here. So what does it mean to us to be a bee city? Is that we feel like we're part of a much larger North American movement that supports native pollinators in native grasslands, and that we teach citizens of Brandon and Western Manitoba about the importance of these ecosystem structures. And we um, right now, this year, 2026, the United Nations has designated this year as the International Year of Grasslands. So for us at Bee City Brandon, it is important to recognize the importance of grasslands to all of us. So our three pillars, which I think is most bee cities, is to educate the citizens of Brandon, Westman about the importance of native pollinators and plants, to create habitat for native pollinators within the city of Brandon, and of course, finally, to celebrate Pollinator Week, the third week in June. We have quite a few community connections that we deal with. The first one, of course, is the city of Brandon. On our very small committee, we do have the environmental coordinator for the city that sits on our meetings and kind of keeps us in line to make sure that we are having our meetings when we need them, that we are doing our work at Eleanor Kidd Park, that she helps us do our grant applications. Nature Manitoba is a nonprofit organization here in Manitoba that provides us with our nonprofit designation. They provide us with administration and insurance for all of our volunteers, and they are actually our umbrella organization. So Nature Manitoba also has Be Better Manitoba, Friends of the Bluebirds, and other natural like organizations under them. So Be Better Manitoba is a group of people in Winnipeg that have created this committee, Be Better Manitoba, that concentrates on getting people to put native habitats in their yards. And so we are a committee member of that committee. Not most, all the committee members are from Winnipeg, and they have actual experts in bees and insects on that committee. So it's a very excellent resource for us here at Bee City Brandon, because although I am a biologist, I am definitely not a bee expert. That takes years and years of work. The Brandon Area Community Foundation has been a major funder for our Eleanor Kidd Park Habitat Creation Project, and they've provided excellent resources to us. We applied for funding one year, and then they came back to us the next year and said, "You are going to apply again, right?" So, of course, we did. uh, the Downtown Neighborhood Renewal Corporation has provided us with small grants to create informational brochures and handouts to give to citizens. The Central Assiniboine River Watershed District has also provided us with funding to help with Eleanor Kidd Park. The Nature Conservancy Canada has also provided support for Eleanor Kidd Park. The Brandon Downtown Biz is our most recent connection, and I'll tell you about that exciting project later on. And the Riverbank Discovery Center is a major connection for us and also a good friend of Bee City Brandon. We're right, Eleanor Kidd Park is right across the river from the Discovery Center. So we spend a lot of time working closely with the center and their program manager. So our community connections, and not in any particular order, is that we have spent time with our local greenhouses, talking to them about native pollinators, providing them with stickers to put on plants that they have that are pollinator friendly. Our local greenhouses are now slowly bringing in small amounts of native plants for people. So we like to showcase the greenhouses that do that. Brandon University and Assiniboine College and the University of Manitoba have all been very helpful to us. Brandon University professors have been on board. We've had help with the greenhouse. They've allowed us to plant some native plants in their greenhouse. Assiniboine College every year in their land and water program have students doing capstone projects, and every year it seems that some student wants to do a project on pollinators in community gardens. So we help them out, and then we also get some research back from them. The University of Manitoba, we did have the architecture landscape design program give us, they had a class project on Eleanor Kidd Park, and they designed how the park would look. There was no way we could do what these students came up with. They were gorgeous, gorgeous renderings of what the park could look like. But with a handful of volunteers, there was no way we could do it. But we did steal parts of what these students had created. And then the entomology department at the University of Manitoba has provided us with a lot of resources, which I'll mention them later. We do have community gardening clubs, community gardens. The local food bank is involved with us. Various businesses, the school division, the local museums, the public library, and even the art gallery. And that's just the ones that I could think of when I was putting the presentation together. So when I talk about presentations, we give them to a variety of different groups. They usually get a hold of us through our social media or through our email, which is bcitybrandon@gmail.com. And we've spoken to a lot of different organizations, and this is some of the things that we've discussed. So the thing that blows everybody's mind is when we tell them that there are more to bees than just honeybees and bumblebees, that there are 390 plus species of bees in Manitoba, that there are 20,000 species worldwide and 4,000 species in North America, and that we have 150 species of butterflies in Manitoba. It, the look on people's faces when I say those statistical numbers is a great joy to me because you know that they've learned something new. And I like to mention that pollinators includes mosquitoes and bats and moths and beetles and ants and birds and wasps and lizards and frogs and the black and white lemurs, which I always say are the largest pollinators. Until one day at a presentation, a boy in grade 3, corrected me and told me that humans were in fact the largest pollinators and that they do pollinate. So I always love to say that that mention about that little grade 3 boy because I'm still learning. And the fact that I was able to learn from somebody in grade 3 that no, the black and white ruffed lemurs are not the largest, that humans were actually provided something else that I could put in my presentations. So Manitoba is very fortunate. because we have a bee scientist that actually works at the University of Manitoba. Dr. Gibbs has been surveying the province, and that's how we know that we have 390 plus different species of bees in Manitoba. This bee is the emoji bee, and if you can see here, you can see like a little happy face on the thorax. This bee was discovered by him in Spruce Woods Provincial Park and has been named after him. And this just proves to me that there's still so much to discover in our prairie provinces in terms of wild pollinators and our native plants. As I said, we belong to the mixed grass prairie in southwestern Manitoba. And prairies are dominated by a mixture of perennial grasses and wildflowers and low-growing shrubs. The common plant species are blue grama grass and purple coneflower, and as you can see in this picture are wood lilies. Our grasslands are one of the most endangered ecosystems in the world, and educating urbanites about the benefits of wild species is important to ensure that funding and conservation projects are provided for these landscapes. So using native plants. Our native plants have developed the ability to survive and reproduce here in Manitoba in our local ecosystem. And so we always tell people to start, identify the spot you want to plant and determine the soil type, the moisture, the sun and shade, and the existing vegetation. And look on our website for what kind of plants fit into those little ecosystems for their own yards. So in Manitoba, we are fortunate that there are a number of native plant sources here, such as Prairie Originals and Skinner native seeds, which we've used. So engaging the youth, I'm a firm believer that if you teach the children will educate their parents about the importance of our wild species, of pollinators, and our wild spaces. This is a group, it's called an Enviro Expo put on by the city of Brandon for grades 3 to 6. And here we are having the students make seed bombs, which is a mixture of potting soil, compost from a local company called Smiley Worms, which is a vermicomposting company, and clay. Smiley Worms is another one of our community places that helps us, and they donate the compost to us. And when we're doing this, oh, sorry. The first thing that we do is we talk about, we have like a question answer. It's a true false. And the kids have to answer whether what I'm saying is true or whether it's false. One of the first questions is it true we only have honeybees and bumblebees? Is that true or false? So quite simple questions, but it gets the conversation rolling. And then afterwards, we make the seed bombs. The teachers take them back to the school, and the kids put them in their schoolyards. And then any extra seeds we use to put and distribute around the vacant areas near Eleanor Kidd Park. We've also done information booths at various locations, such as CD Saturday, at the local mall, at our greenhouses, at garden days, and arbor days and craft shows. At these information booths, we have a collection of native Manitoba bees that we were gifted by Dr. Jason Gibbs. So these are just a few of the bees, and if you look in the middle, it's kind of hard to see, but these ones are our official bee, which I'll talk about soon. And everybody's always quite surprised at some of these little tiny ones. There's a little tiny one here. This one here, I think, is a mason bee, and they're quite shocked at the different varieties of bees and the different sizes. I love seeing their faces when they notice that, oh, so that thing I saw was a bee. And the learning that happens in the city is heartwarming. So on our social media page, we're found on Instagram and Facebook, and we create these little um, information things like Happy Pi Day, which is coming up. This will be on our social media feed. These are just pollinator facts that we put out for Pollinator Week last year. And we've also had our Pollinator Week fun thing that we do. It's called hashtag BDN sighting. And what we do is we encourage people in Brandon and Westman to post pictures of their pollinators that they find in their own gardens. And then we will share them, post them on our social media. And at the end of the season, like in October, we do a random draw and we give out a Naturescape Manitoba book and some other goodies to the winner. It's been a lot of fun, and over the years, we've noticed more interactions with people taking pictures of their pollinators. To us, that means they're getting into their gardens and they're looking at more than just their flowers. They're looking at the little ones that are running around and doing all the work. So I did mention we have an official bee, and in 2000, during COVID, we had a contest to determine the official bee of the city of Brandon, and we called it Bee versus Bee versus Bee. And this was our first poster. It was wanted Omega-Kylene villosa for multiple charges of leaf vandalism. And so this was my no, this wasn't my bee. Sorry, my bee's coming up. But we put these on social media, and then people. Uh, it was kind of funny. We had our volunteers create these posters. Now this is my favorite bee, and this was Tinder for invertebrates, the green sweat bee, and what she had to offer. And I think you can read what's on the screen there. I'm having a hard time reading it unless I get up really close and then you're going to see my nose and my eyes. So I'll just let you have to read what it says there. And then finally was my name is Bombus Tenarius, and because I'm the bomb. And this actually ended up becoming our official bee. We had people vote online, and this ended up being the winner. Now, this poster is quite interesting. It's the orange-belted bumblebee. Well, it's actually not interesting. It's kind of a funny story. I took this picture, and we thought it was an orange-belted bumblebee until I put it on iNaturalist, and a bee scientist in Canada came back and said, no, that's a Hunt's bumblebee. So we actually, they look the same. There's striking differences, but to the everyday Brandonite, everyday person, any bee that has an orange belt, we're calling it an orange belted bumblebee. Uh, Even though one more than likely it'll be a Hunt's bumblebee here in Brandon. Some other fun stuff that we do is that we paint bumblebees, and sometimes we get school kids and we paint them into bumblebees. We have an active group in Brandon on Facebook called Westman Rocks, and they distribute rocks around town, and people, kind of find them and pick them up and keep them. What we do is we don't write Westman Rocks on the bottom. We write down B City Brandon, our hashtag. So we hope that when people find them, they'll put it on social media so that we can see them. What what ends up happening though with the bees is that I have found that most people keep them and put them in their yards. So every year we make them and we give them away or we hide them throughout town. We are fortunate to have an amazing artist and a photographer on our committee who created this amazing adult coloring page. So we give these out when we have booths. We ask for a small donation, and If anybody wants a copy of them, you can ask me, send it to our social media, or send me an email and we'll send you copies. In 2022, we decided to partner with a local business and provide sunflower seeds to residents in support of the Ukraine. We have a huge Ukrainian population here in Brandon, and we figured that we could promote awareness about what was going on in Ukraine as well as promote Bee City Brandon and show our support to our fellow Brandonites, our newcomers. In our minds, education is not all about science, but it's also about our art and nature, about our art and nature and how it combines in our hearts. We had art submissions that were curated at Brandon University in their library, and everybody contributed. There was videos, there was uh, crochet. There were pictures by school kids, and it was on display at the university for at least 6 months. A local greenhouse, together with our Shoppers Mall, created this fabulous cutout with the sunflower and Brandon's official bee on a stick right here. This is actually on a stick, so you could pretend it's flying within the flower. It was such great fun. The bee didn't last very long. His wings ended up getting all bent out of shape, but that's me out there smiling in the Shoppers Mall with the bee. We have, like I said, in Brandon, we have an excellent group of volunteers. We don't have a lot of volunteers because most of the volunteers in Brandon are also volunteering for something else. It seems the same people that kind of move around to all of our different volunteer organizations and help out. So we like to support and highlight some of our amazing volunteers. This is Sylvia. She created a pollinator garden on her own at the Riverbank Discovery Center, which we learned some amazing things on what to do and what not to do when we were tackling Eleanor Kidd Park. But Sylvia is an amazing friend to Bee City Brandon. I mentioned iNaturalist earlier, but I can't talk about it enough. It is such a great resource for Bee City Brandon. And I'd like to say that iNaturalist is like Pokemon Go, but for naturalists. It's an app where you can get your phone and upload this app onto your phone and take pictures of living things. Doesn't matter what it is, pollinators, moss, fungi, mammals, trees, wildflowers, you name anything that's alive, except for domestic animals. You can upload it onto this app, and the AI will help you identify it. And then a local naturalist or a scientist will come across your photo and make it research grade identification for your observation. And that's how I found out that the picture I took of the orange-belted bumblebee was actually a Hunt's bumblebee, was on iNaturalist. And if you're interested, this year on the 24th to the 27th of April, there is a City Nature Challenge which takes place across the world. Check it out. See if your city is participating, and if they're not, it pairs, and if they are, it pairs nicely with being a bee city. The reason why I say that is because here is a, a screenshot of taken from iNaturalist in 2024. These are the bees that have been observed in Brandon, and the one you can see has been observed the most is actually the Hunt's bumblebee. So this is the Hunt's bumblebee. This one is our official bee. And then this shows you just what kind of ones we have in Brandon. There are more. I just only put the one page. So I've done the same thing with the Lepidoptera and the moths. So Eventually, I'm going to make uh, a social media post or even for our website, the bees that we have in the city that people can see. So I'm going to switch gears and talk about our habitat creation. This is a picture of Sylvia's habitat that she took, that she created at the Riverbank Discovery Center. And there is our Mackenzie Seed Building, which is basically our skyline. Our goal is actually to have pollinator gardens plots at our community gardens. We have them at two of them. Goal is to actually get one of the plots that are just filled with native plants. Downtown, the Brandon Neighborhood Renewal Corporation has a bee-friendly pollinator garden in front of their building. They've also created raspberry bushes along the side of the road, which provides everybody with little snacks when they're out for a walk. But the pollinators love raspberries and they don't trim them. So they have the canes left for the stem nesting. Our prize project, and the one that's taking up most of our, well, I'm going to say all of our time, is Eleanor Kidd Park. So Eleanor Maud Kidd, who the park is named after, was born in London in August of 1881. And in 1947, she founded so she came, like there's a whole bunch of, she came to Brandon, she worked, but she founded the Brandon Humane Society in 1947. And she worked there without pay for over 20 years, organizing fundraising campaigns and caring for stray animals. And she passed away in 1978. And the city honored her by naming this park after her in the location where she first started Brandon's Humane Society. So the Eleanor Kidd Garden was open in 2002. It was a formal Victorian garden park. Lots of annuals, very few perennials, shrubs, and flowering trees. It was maintained by the Brandon Garden Clubs and the City of Brandon Parks Department. And it was the place to be in Brandon. It had musical performers playing. People had their weddings there. Photos, people got their photos taken there. There were concerts. It was just a beautiful place to gather. And it was devastated by the historic floods we had in 2011. This is what it looked like after the floods. A lot of the trees died. Uh, the whole area of Eleanor Kidd Park had pathways and trails that were flooded and never remade. A lot of Manitoba maple, which is a riverbank tree, they died. So in 2023, the defendant asked us if B City wanted to turn this area into a pollinator garden. And we jumped at the opportunity to bring back Eleanor Kidd Park. So the first thing that had to be done was that it had to be cleaned up. And we did not, we were star-eyed. We were like, oh yeah, Eleanor Kidd Park, we do something with it. It was a much bigger thing than we thought. And the City of Brandon Parks and Recs were able to clean it up for us, and we were able to start planting. So this is what it looked like after the parks people cleaned it up for us. And with the grant from the Brandon Area Community Foundation and the Central Assiniboine Watershed District, we were able to buy some plant plugs and seeds from Skinner Native Seeds and Prairie Originals. And a very small group of volunteers, and I'm saying small, like five max, planted and watered these precious little plants. So this year, 2025, we now call it a place for pollinators, plants, and people. And remember, I mentioned the photographer? These are some of her photos of Eleanor Kidd Park. The one with the prairie crocus, which is Manitoba's provincial flower, it came up in early spring, and we kind of took it as a sign that things were going to be okay in our park, and it has been. This year we create, well, 2025, we created some information signs that we've put out in various locations talking about pollinators, native plants, indigenous communities. Um, there's one more, but I can't remember what it is right off the top of my head. I'll remember later. But we like to say it's a place for pollinators, plants, and people, pollinators being first, plants being second, and it just so happens people will be allowed in there to learn. So our lofty vision includes wanting more indigenous input and teachings, a large educational component that will include various pollinators and native plant species, and also showcasing pollinator-themed artwork. So within the city of Brandon, we have future projects that we want to do. We want to create a booklet that focuses on our native pollinators that we have listed under iNaturalist. We wanted to develop different programs for different school ages so that we can get the schools more and teaching according to their level and what's in the curriculum. A new partnership that we are quite excited about is to work with the John Howard Society, which is a group that works with people coming out of detention and trying to they have like a home, a transition home for them, which is close to Eleanor Kidd Park, and them uh, become caretakers of Eleanor Kidd Park and native plants at all of our community gardens eventually. Our newest project is in partnership with the downtown Brandon Downtown Biz and a local artist named Savannah Camp. Nope. She will be placing specific bumblebees on buildings in downtown Brandon, about this size, 8.5 by 11. And since Manitoba has 30 species of bumblebees, we'll be putting up 30 in different locations. We will have a sign saying what this is in one of our downtown parks, and we hope to have pamphlets that will explain as well as geocachers for the locations of where these will be. We have contacted various businesses and landowners in our core area, and the response is fabulous. They are very excited about this initiative. And so we're very excited about combining art and science along with people getting downtown to for bee town in our scout and bee hunt in downtown Brent. So with that said, this is our group of volunteers working at Eleanor Kidd Park. You make a living by what you get, and you make a life by what you give. And our volunteers give a lot to our community. I have to say thank you to all of these organizations. In some way, they've helped us, either monetarily or through information. Uh, we it takes everybody. It takes a community to create something like what we're doing here in Brandon. And finally, if you have any questions, just give me a holler.
Great. Thank you so much, Sherry, for the presentation. You do such an incredible job at engaging the community to learn about pollinators and also make it really fun. All the different activities uh, where you just shared about the scavenger hunt, the vote for the official bee. I loved the wanted poster and the Tinder. It was just so much fun stuff, and making it fun really helps to get the community interested. So, and the incredible list of groups that you've partnered with always blows me away. So really, really incredible work that you're doing. And I did also especially love
Thank
the
you.
story about the grade three student calling us out about humans also being pollinators. It's a really good one.
Yes, I will never forget that young man.
We've always got to be humbled.
Yes.
So it looks like we do have about 15 minutes left for questions. If people have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat as well. Um, I see one question came in from Peggy. So the question is, what type of budget do you have? Are you self-sustaining in seeds?
We will become self-sustaining in seeds after, like, we collected seeds from Eleanor Kidd Park this fall that will be given to the Enviro Expo to make the seed bombs. But we are dependent on getting grants. But the community seems to be every grant that we've applied for, we've received. They seem to like the idea. So um, we're not self-sufficient yet. We hope to actually maybe do a membership drive or just selling hot dogs for donations, just so that we can keep the running of presentations and pamphlets and brochures and that kind of thing.
That's great. Really great to hear about the grant success rate. That is impressive. Someone says bees and
Yeah, we may get
grasses and
spoiled.
pollination.
Yeah, we do have some grasses at Eleanor Kidd Park, but not as many. What happened at the Riverbank Discovery Center when she planted the pollinator garden was they planted too much grass, um, and the grass ended up taking over everything. So they're replanting it again this coming spring and concentrating more on the forbs as opposed to the grasses. They still have some grasses, but they're going to try to control where they spread to.
Hmm. Someone is asking, what was the week in April you mentioned? I think that may have been the
The
iNaturalist.
City Nature, yeah, City Nature Challenge. I think it's the 24th of April. Check with your city. If you go to iNaturalist, no, if you go to the City Nature Challenge online, it will give you a map of the world, actually, showing you all the places that are participating in the City Nature Challenge. And just go and check to see if your city is participating. And if they are, grab the iNaturalist app, get out there for those days and take pictures, and then you can be part of a worldwide uh, fun couple of days.
Yeah, we haven't historically promoted it through Bee City, but not for lack of it being an incredible event, but for lack of me getting it out in time. So it's really something we've got to do because it's so cool how you can kind of see the leaderboards too. Just really energizes people to get out there.
Yes, and there's two of us in Brandon that are really big on iNaturalists, and we just try to compete against each other who gets the most. Um, the last couple of years, he's beaten me out, but it's the fun of the chase.
Yeah, this is your year.
Yeah,
I can feel it.
and here in Manitoba, there's not much growing, so it's
Mm.
really hard to find stuff. If the City Nature Challenge was more in the spring or summer, it would be better, but because it's worldwide, it's at the end of April.
Yeah, that is a really good point.
Mhm.
See, someone says the City Nature Challenge is really big in Richmond, BC. That is great to hear. And then someone else asked the question, is there a cost for your coloring pages?
Just a donation, but I would send it out to you guys for free as long as you leave our B City Brandon logo on it.
Awesome. One more came in. Do you find homeowners and in your civic landscaping that native plants are getting used more?
Well, according to our greenhouses, people are coming in and asking for native plants, but they want the nice, colorful, showy ones, right? Of course they do for their gardens. So we have, and I actually didn't put it on here, we have plants that are from Manitoba with just the flowers so that you can see what the flowers look like. And I think it's 4 by 5. Uh, so 4 by 5 is 20 different plants that you can grow here in southwestern Manitoba that you can actually get from our greenhouses,
Oh, that's
which
great.
get them from native, yeah, which they get them from native plant nurseries. So we know that they're good.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, one thing to know what the plants are, and then another thing to actually have them and sourced correctly. Like even
Yeah, and we know where they come from, and we know the people that are planting them. So, um, because Manitoba is a small community in in a sense, I mean Manitoba's huge, but we all know each other, so we're able to actually know these people that are making these plants and seeds.
yeah, that's fantastic. So even in Ontario, where there's lots of nurseries, it can still be quite a drive to get native
Yes.
plants. So I think that might be all the questions. I'll hang on for a minute or so in case anybody else has any questions. But I'm gonna keep the lemur story in mind too, because I always say that lemur is the biggest pollinator. Gonna have to start saying largest non-human animal pollinator. Just a bit more of a mouthful. Uh, one more question. Do you have any connections with the agricultural community in Brandon?
We haven't ventured outside the city much, but we do have the Agricultural Research Station that just recently cut the program that was doing work with pollinators and agricultural communities. So we do open up to Westman, and I have been asked to give talks to outside of Brandon. So we like to consider ourselves more Westman than just B City Brandon. But to deal with farmers, we haven't done that yet.
Thanks for that. Yeah, it can be difficult to engage. And I'm seeing one other comment as well, which is interesting. The I guess for the City Nature Challenge, I guess they're considering doing a fall version of it for areas where there might be a little more activity in the fall, which I didn't know about. So that's really cool to see as well.
Yeah, I have a call about that next week.
Oh,
So it's
nice.
just a Canadian. Yeah, there's a Canadian one through the Canadian Wildlife Federation. No, I can never remember. It's Canadian Wildlife something. And they do one in the summer as well. But it's just Canada as opposed to the worldwide one, which is the Big City Nature Challenge. But the
Uh,
Canadian group also does bio blitzes. So
okay.
that's when you go out and just blitz an area with observations.
Mm, I appreciate there being a fall one that's Canada only. That kind of evens the playing field a
Oh,
little bit too.
it's in September this year, one of the commenters said.
Okay. Yeah, harder to compete with cities further south.
Well, the City Nature Challenge is also trying to get away from the whole challenge part of it.
Mm,
Here in Manitoba, there was Winnipeg and Brandon and Winnipeg always compete against, well, Brandon always competes against Winnipeg. I don't think Winnipeg necessarily competes against Brandon, but we always wanted to beat Winnipeg. But they've got a person that can get 1,000 observations in a day. So there's no way we could ever top them.
wow,
And they have a
that's
bigger
impressive.
space than we do. Yeah, there's a couple of iNaturalist users in Manitoba that are quite proficient in getting observations.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I
Yeah,
haven't gone out
it
myself to see
is.
like how many I can find in one day, but that sounds pretty fun.
It is fun. I always like to push it as part of Bee City Brandon. So, and then I get the data. So it's
Mm,
kind of a win-win.
yeah, that is nice. I've heard of for birding. I forget which day it is, but a day where you try to count how many birds you can see, but you have to stay in one place. Like that sounds fun.
Yeah,
How can I get a
just got to
thousand
pick the right
species that way?
space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only half the fun's in picking the space.
Yeah.
So I see we've got about 5 minutes left, and I think most questions have been asked. So I'd say we can probably end things a few minutes early, give people 5 minutes back in the day. Um, yeah, so thank you so much, Sherry, for joining us today and providing such a great overview of all the really impressive work that Bee City Brandon is doing. I would also like to thank everybody that tuned in to take the time to listen today and engage with us. The webinar was recorded both in English and in French. So we will have both versions up on the Bee City Canada YouTube in the near future, and I'll send out a link to people once those are up so that you can view them. And with that, that concludes today's webinar. So I hope that everybody enjoys the rest of your day, enjoys the coming spring, which I've heard it's going to get a little colder soon. So the spring to come, and stay tuned for upcoming webinars. Thanks again, Sherry.